Welcome to No Prize Podcast. I am the professor. That is Johnny. And we are here in the middle of May. It's almost summertime, Johnny.
Woo!
Yay.
Sun's out, guns out.
Aye. All right. Well, we got some, maybe kind of a light week this week. We got the end of the first season of X-Men 97 on Disney Plus.
Yep.
Which the last few weeks we've been talking about, and 10 episodes come to an end. It kind of ended exactly how I thought it would be, with a bit like of a downer, and then the tune in next season. So no wrap up really to any of the storylines. The X-Men are victorious, but at a price, right? So
Oh man.
What, Johnny? You weren't here last episode. What are your thoughts of the last half of the season?
Well, I think you can tell that we've moved from Chris Claremont to Fabian Nicieza, and more importantly, Scott Lobdell, because there's stuff happening in the show that makes no sense. Gone are the angsty-driven storylines. Now it's just noise on top of noise on top of noise, and it's ridiculous how the suspension of logical thought has actually affected the cartoon. I'm watching it, and I know it's a cartoon. I know cartoon rules apply and all that sort of stuff. I get it. I'm not a complete moron or new to this sort of thing. But things like the asteroid's blown up, and yet the hangar where the Blackbird's safe, and then say, right, let's get out of there, and the Cyclops blasts the wall just exactly where the Blackbird is, instead of having to traipse through the whole station, which they had to get there in the first place. Convoluted. How was Magneto saved when Bastion killed him? What happened to the Morlocks that were there? That they're proper dead. I mean, there's some nice touches. Scott telling Wolverine not to die and break Jean's heart. It is a massive recognition for Scott, I think. Morph trying to be supportive when he turns into Jean Grey to support Wolvie. But Wolvie is a prime example. The character is probably one of the most popular X-Men, and yet the only thing he did in 10 episodes was gripe and stab Magneto. That's it. That's the only thing he did.
Yeah, no, I think Wolverine was for the most part wasted. He was eye candy, I guess you would call him, for 10 episodes. He didn't really do much except whine about Jean and go on the wrong mission.
And then, don't. The other things, kind of things like we can see the Gambit is going to become the Arch Gambit, the same way that Angel became Archangel. He's going to be Arch Gambit, isn't he?
Well, that would fit in continuity, right? Because Gambit at one point was Death, part of the Four Horsemen.
And this is where it goes Pete Tong for me. We were talking as I was watching the show during the week, and I'm like, when did Sunspot fly? And then you're like, oh, Sunspot could do this, he could do that. But none of that's happened yet. Yeah. None of that's happened. They're just picking and choosing. There was several scenes in the last episode where Scott has to do this with his visor to fire his eye beams to raise the glass.
Yeah.
And then a couple of panels, he's just stood proper style, firing away. And I'm like, what? I did notice on one of the scenes though, he turned and he kind of fired his eye blast into something or other, and the image they used was practically the same Neil Adams picture we talked about last time on Old Timers when we did the X-Men thing. I was like, oh, look, there's some Neil Adams going on there. Blink and you miss it. But it was just, I think the last few episodes have just been noise, and it really frustrates me because it's like the first half of the season was really quite well put together. I thought the Goblin Queen episode was perfect. I thought it was really good. Good angst, good drama, good conclusion, But from there on in, it just felt I suppose the first part of Genosha Fallen was a good episode as well. The whole, is she going to go with Gambit? Is she going to go with Magneto? All these things that us longtime fans would probably get into rather than just noise for noise sake. And that, unfortunately, I think that's where it's devolved into, to be honest.
Yeah, I think especially towards the end of the season, where you realize that the producers, that they have 10 episodes to tell their story, right? And then that they're pretty sure they're going to get a second season out of it, so you got to set it up. But the concepts and the stories that you're kind of stuck with. We have to reestablish these characters, right? Because there's a lot of these people that are watching the show maybe haven't been exposed to the X-Men since 1997, right? So it's been 30 years. So I get where they had to do that. And I did love the fact that they I think adeptly wove together a convoluted Chris Claremont different plot threads through years of his X-Men storytelling, and kind of made it accessible to people that maybe didn't read Claremont's run. Like I never really thought that they would get into the whole Cyclops, Jean, Phoenix, Cable relationship. That was, to me, you needed a scorecard to even when you were reading Claremont's run, you had to figure it out, right? So
I feel that way about Nimrod. It's like, so you've got Sentinel, you've got a Super Sentinel, then you've got Nimrod, then you've got something else, and then you've got, I'm like, what?
Master Mold and the Tri Sentinel, and then no, I get it. So a lot of it was like I said, you had to kind of take a class to figure it out. I do enjoy the fact that we are kind of getting away from Claremont's run and into Lobdell and the Seiza. This is kind of like the a nostalgia piece for me, and I don't really care how convoluted it is at the end, because I understand it.
Well, here's the thing. I like Fabian Nicieza. I've met the bloke. I've interviewed him. And he's a really good guy. And some of his X-Men work was absolutely brilliant. By the same token, I can't stand Scott Lobdell. His writing has no consistency. It's all over the shop. It's kind of like, oh, this is a great idea. I have no idea how I'm going to get there, and I have no idea what's coming next, but let's work on this idea. And that's exactly how I felt these last episodes have been.
Yeah. And even the setup for next season, where you split the team and you have Scott and Jean with the Ascanis, and then the rest of the team is apparently back in ancient Egypt with Apocalypse, right? So
even that professor got me knocked. Why? You have an opportunity here to split the team and create some odd couples going on.
Yeah,
something a bit different.
Yeah,
but you don't. You go Jean and Scott, Rogue and Nightcrawler. You're like, you could have done so much. You could have tried just that little bit harder.
Yeah,
just to give us something a little bit different.
Well, that's, I was like, oh, well, they're going to do the Ascani Sun limited series adaptation. They're going to do the backstory of Apocalypse. But yeah, I was kind of surprised they didn't split them up more. Like, if you're going to do Jean and Scott, then why did they get split up from the rest of the team as opposed to, putting a couple here, a couple there? I thought they were going to be scattered across time, and we were going to get several different storylines, because that would have been something new, because then, like, even though we have Days of Future Past and everything, the X-Men never have really done any kind of time travel like the Avengers have done, right?
No, that's true.
Or the Fantastic Four. So that would be interesting, I think.
I suppose Wolverine has to go back in time.
That would be, but I don't think
he has to get his metal claws back. If you remember Jungle Adventure by Mike Mignola, he comes in across one of Apocalypse's labs, and in there is an adamantium skeleton. So you think to yourself, because Wolverine, they're not going to have a whole. Well, to be honest, we'll say this. I sound like a complete idiot. They're not going to go a whole season without Wolverine popping his metal claws. Mind you, they could do, because he's never used them at all this season. So what the hey?
They could do the whole like, I don't know if you remember the X-Men cartoon from the season 2 from the 90s. What the Professor X and Magneto spent a whole season in the Savage Land separated from
Yeah,
the team. They could do Wolverine back in time, but
yeah.
touch on. They did this in the comic book. They sent Wolverine's mind back in time into the younger versions of himself, so that you could get some storylines there, right?
Did they in the
So
comic books? Because they did that. That was Days of Future Past the movie, wasn't it? Rather than because
they did it in the comic books too. Like you could
but
see all the different timelines.
you've got to. I. It's funny because at some point, Wolverine getting his claws, his metal claws, has to be a fixed point. So
Yeah,
therefore, Wolverine has to be in the past so that he can get recruited by whomever to put him back the way he was. Right?
yeah,
Stryker, he's got all his memories now, so he needs to think back. Well, hold on, I need to go put myself back the way I was. To get his claws, or Apocalypse is going to get him to him, whichever way it's going to work. But sooner or later, Wolverine's going to have to get his metal claws back. The whole
mhm.
idea of bone claws, whilst it's fun for a short while, especially in the comics, was absolutely ludicrous. And I kept breaking every 2 minutes. Like, oh, look, Wolverine's broke a nail.
Well,
Give me a mani-pedi, quick.
that's the thing that bugged me. It was like they're breaking his claws off. I'm like, don't they just regenerate just like everything else? I'm
Yeah.
like, why is that such a big tragedy?
Why is
But
that a tragedy?
but anyway, overall, this is really kind of, and this is why I enjoyed that you selected the X-Men Forever book that we're gonna review, because I wanted to compare and contrast not just the whole nostalgia that I
Yeah.
think we're all feeling about X-Men just because of this Disney Plus. And it was, if you believe the hype, the most well-reviewed um, Marvel project in absolute years, right?
Well, I think you can say it's been well received for sure. And yes, I'm being a bit of a stick in the mud, but hey, that's part of my charm.
Hmm.
But I will say it has been worth the watch.
Hmm.
Whether you're watching it for nostalgia, whether it's getting you all hyped up for X-Men stuff coming up down the line, or maybe people are going back and checking out the back issues. I don't know, but it has, I think, really invigorated a bunch of characters that ironically have been ostracized from the Marvel universe
Yeah.
prior to Krakoa, which is actually then extended even worse because of Krakoa age, and now it's finally getting back to some semblance of taking its rightful place. So I think from a kind of pulling everything together point of view, I think the cartoon's done really well. It has generated conversation, it's generated fun and nostalgia bit that you've mentioned. And yeah, I'm being grouchy because I'm British and I'm grouchy.
You're grouchy. I get it. No, so here's the question that I have, and it's been kind of on my mind after the last several weeks, but watching the X-Men cartoon on Disney Plus that, yes, have brought back these feelings of nostalgia and Jesus, 30 years ago, we were living in like the Claremont Lee era of X-Men,
Mm,
and it was a renaissance period for Marvel.
mm.
And the question really is, do you think that the creators, the comic creators, or Marvel Comics, is kicking themselves in the head? Like, are they like, how? Because you're looking at the product now, and it seems to me like they're ending the Krakoa after 5 or 6. Has it been 5 years or 6 years? It's been a while, right?
Too many is the
It's too
word you're
many.
looking for.
The Krakoan age, which is, I'm sure, what we'll all call it, right?
Right.
And we're going back to, do you want to call it back to basics with the new creative teams that come in next month, with with Gail Simone and Jed McKay taking over the core books, and then a third book, and I can't remember the creator for the third book.
Is it Stephanie Phillips? I think
Maybe I
I've heard
can't.
her name mentioned a couple of times.
Yeah. Um, but it seems to me like they're getting away from getting totally away from the Krakoan age, and we're getting teams of X-Men again, and maybe some classic characters. I know the Gail Simone book looks like 90s X-Men all over again, right? And go ahead.
It's interesting to bring this up for sure, because and we're going to have a look at an X-Men book in a minute. We're going to look at X-Men Forever #4.
Yeah.
We've said this before. We've said that the mass media version of Marvel Comics, whether it be the Disney Plus stuff or the stuff at the MCU when we go to the cinema, has no real reflection of what people are buying in the comic books. There's no synergy between the two. There's no connectivity, as it were. The X-Men cartoon has kind of bridged that gap a little bit. There's been some dialogue bits when Scott says, "What do you expect? Black spandex," which is a nod to what Scott says in the X-Men movie to Wolverine, but different. So I think the X-Men has reinvigorated the public interest in. Sorry, X-Men '97 has reinvigorated that public interest in the characters, and Marvel has to, especially if you think people our age are probably watching X-Men with their kids, or people younger than us are watching it with their kids. Now the kids are saying, "Mom, Dad, it's a comic book. Let's go out and get a comic book." And you go and buy X-Men Forever 4, and you're like, "What on earth is all this?"
Yeah.
It has no real impact. And whilst we say it's on Disney Plus, just because it's 10 episodes and done, that's not it. People can go back anytime they like and rewatch this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can go back and rewatch the original series if you really want to. Though the animation towards the end gets really dodgy. Just saying. But the same token, it's how else do you move your product? It's got to. The knock against comic books and having a mass media presence, whether it be TV, whether it be cartoons, whether it be cinematic universes, is that the comics don't reflect the movies. In fact, my issue is the movie should reflect the comic books, because I'm comic first. That's my hill. I'm comics first. But I'm also a realist and realize that more people are going to watch the X-Men cartoon than are going to ever buy an X-Men comic.
That's and this is my quandary, because I'm so conflicted about like how do we continue the good trend, right? We've gone the last few years with us panning everything that's been coming out of Disney Plus, for the most part, right? We've been very, very critical. But now we have this X-Men thing, and we've all been waiting for years for this, and we get this cartoon, and it's really, really good, and it reminds us of I guess the stories, maybe not necessarily quality, but the nostalgia factor. So you're bringing in the older fans, you're exposing newer fans, or maybe cultivating newer fans, right? And that's the problem that I think Marvel has, is how do you cross that gap? How do you cross that bridge with continuing to bring in a new ongoing fan base for a property that's 60 years old, right? How do you continue to build on that, where we've seen the failings over the last several years, where people, especially the older fans, have been turning away from the product, where it's just because it's not the same, but they've not been able to bring in the fans that are coming in and that are going to spend money, right? They're going to support your property. They just, I don't know if they know how to do it, but they did it with X-Men. So now I'm sitting there going, you still have something, you still got it. So how do you make it better? How do you continue? And how do you bring in the new fans and get them to stay?
I think Marvel have probably done the right thing. The age of comics is different to when we were kids. But when we were kids, you bought comics and that was it. Now you've got different levels. You've got younger reader, teens, plus teens and stuff. So there's enough gap on the rack that if you wanted to have a kid-friendly X-Men book based on the animation style, you could have an X-Men '97 comic book, and that would keep people interested in the ideas of the story of the cartoon, when they're ready, they can then progress and move on to something that's a little bit more what we would consider, true X-Men books. The other thing is, it's the arse sweeping, the swept the board. Krakoa's done. It's a lame duck. We are in the lame duck section of
For
of
sure.
an X-Men. And it feels like a lame duck. It feels, that every time I see something on Twitter about X-Men, it's about what's coming. It's not what's happening now.
It's like Bill
So,
Belichick's last season coaching the Patriots.
well,
Anyway,
I was going to say that. However, I will say that when you sweep the board, you've got to kind of back it up. And having Jed McKay on an X-Men book is just good common sense, because he's writing Avengers at the minute. He's worked on his skills all the way from pre-Black Cat all the way through Black Cat, Spider-Man projects. He's now on Avengers. He's done Doctor Strange, so he's got some like sciencey clever clog stuff going on there. He's on Forerunner on the whole Blood Hunt thing. So his star's in the ascendancy. So if you're reading a Marvel book right now, at some point you would have come across him.
Yep.
So having him on an X book is going to get the fans back. Yep. Gail Simone, granted, her last Birds of Prey stuff for DC wasn't particularly fantastic, but her Domino stuff for Marvel was really tongue-in-cheek, really funny, and it was really well written.
yeah.
So having her on board also gives you a good kind of grounding from a comic book fan point of view.
Yeah.
Now all we've got to do is make it, accessible. And how do you do that? Get rid of Krakoa. And they're doing that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Marvel's probably, it's very much, I think, akin to the Mandalorian TV show. The Mandalorian TV show rocked up, didn't say anything about anything. It's just a Western. And then all of a sudden you get Grogu, or Baby Yoda as he was back then, and everybody is fascinated.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what X-Men 97 has done for X-Men, I think, as a whole. Then people, the same as the Mandalorian, it's just reinvigorated the whole thing. And how to keep it going? Start fresh, man. If it's one thing the Marvel mutants are doing, it's good at, it's starting over.
That's
Give me the Siege Perilous.
Throw everybody, hit the reset button. Let's go. All right. So we're gonna jump from here to we'll do X-Men Forever, and then we'll take a break, right? So we have X-Men Forever #4. Do you have the credits here for them?
I do. It's written by Kieran Gillen, art by Luca Maresca. Federico Blue is on colors, and VC's Clayton Cowles are on letters. If you don't know who the editors are by now, tough, because I haven't got that written down.
This is the final issue of X-Men Forever #4.
Is it?
It's the final issue of X-Men Forever. So this is not. It's X-Men. X-Men Limited. X-Men Not Forever. X-Men. I don't know. This issue is the final chapter of this particular iteration. Now this is all leading into the end of Krakoa. So you see a bunch of stuff wrapping up here. Now there's a bunch of different storylines that have been going on. Some of them not in X-Men Forever. Some of them have been in other books. But this has been this book actually is wrapping up a bunch of stuff, and it's a bit confusing if you haven't been paying attention.
Well, you know what? That's not a bad shout. It is absolutely confusing for sure. But it's Marvel. What's going on? I was confused. I've been keeping an eye on Xbox for a while on the download, just to try and keep up with the Krakoan thing. But
yeah, so there's a couple of things in here that do affect overall long-term X-Men continuity with a couple of characters, right? I mean, if you've been paying attention for the last several months, they did finally get into the whole Mystique, Destiny, Nightcrawler, who's your mommy kind of story. And
I didn't mind that. I thought that was all right.
Yeah, yeah. After my initial hesitancy about really kind of liking it. When you look back on the history of it, this is really kind of what Chris Claremont wanted to do all the time, and he
Mm.
couldn't do back in the 1980s. So, you know, having this finally done kind of really sets this relationship apart from other convoluted
Mhm.
X-Men type relationships, and they really kind of do a deep dive into the relationships between Mystique and Destiny, and and they're kind of at odds because Mystique had realized that Destiny forced Professor Xavier to erase their memories of Nightcrawler being their child, and this basically fixes that. um do I think I know what they're going to do with it going forward? I have no idea. It's one of those things that, this could all be swept under the rug next month, but anyway,
Yeah.
but the
Before I just want to say that's an absolute lift. That page, that panel's an absolute lift from the Hellfire special. That that pause especially. Just want to say that. Poor homage. Be less obvious when you're stealing people's art, please. Thank you. Sorry, carry on.
well, anyway, I do love the I love the relationships with, being, we've all known Nightcrawler and Mystique have been mother and son for a long, long
Mm,
time, but now we know that Mystique's actually the father, right?
right.
And here the other thing, now that we're going to get into parentage in this issue, um, we're coming in with Hope, right? And
So, I'm. I don't know who Hope is. I think I was out of the X-Men for a while, and I always thought Hope was related to Jean Grey.
well, here's the thing. I thought that you know Hope to me was always Cable's daughter, but I didn't know that it wasn't a biological daughter.
Oh,
And here they establish that here Mr. Sinister wants to, I guess, get his cred back, or get so people don't want to kill him. So he's going to go back and set it so that he's actually the father to Hope. So that's
right.
what he goes back and he talks to, I can't remember the character's name, uh,
Louise.
Louise, um, and that he is going to impregnate Louise so that she gives birth to Hope 9 months later, so that Hope is there to save the universe, apparently, as Phoenix. Now, here's the thing. I tell you earlier, you need a scorecard to keep track of the whole Gene Scott Gable, and now you can add Hope to all of this. So it turns out here that the ghost of Jean Grey, who's been dead for the last 6 months, goes back in time to I guess, interrupt Mr. Sinister's little plot here, and instead of Louise being the father, apparently the Phoenix Force, and I didn't know that they could do this, but hey, apparently they can. The Phoenix Force actually, immaculate
Mm,
conception, and now the Hope is really kind of the Phoenix Force, right? The
yeah,
living embodiment of the Phoenix Force. And here they show the Hope basically this is basically she saves the world, right? Not a lot of
right,
not a big fight, right? There's not a big
right,
fight here, but Hope becomes the Phoenix, and this is really the end of Hope, because she's now in a loop, right? The
right.
Phoenix, and this is the end of the Phoenix Force too, right? I mean, how do you go forward telling Phoenix
Well,
Force
you
stories?
say that, but isn't Jean Grey Phoenix coming out in a couple of
You
months?
you think, right? So it's an interesting little kind of, as much of a wrapped up in a bow kind of package story. Um, it's
I,
interesting.
I love the
Uh,
broken mask of Destiny. I've got to say, I really like that.
yes,
I would like that to become a regular thing, so she can see it sort of like sees the past and the future.
yeah.
So she's got like that split kind of viewpoint. I like to see that a lot. I like that a lot for sure.
I think it's weird that her whole costume is like the gold body armor.
Yeah,
it's the gold body armor and the gold mask. I thought it was just a mask, but I enjoyed it a little bit.
Don't get me started about costumes. Wait till we get to Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah. All right. So this is, you know, as much as I didn't want to like this issue, I did kind of like it. I thought it was all right. But the rest of the story, this is you're in definite lame duck territory. This is basically the final issue of this, but the wrap ups of the storylines here this was huge. I mean, the whole
6 more issues or something crazy like that. Well,
six,
I've just closed it down. It's like there's 6 more parts to this story before we get to the end across all the different books. So it's like,
well, six. There's only 6. So look at it that way.
Yeah. There's only 6. Yeah.
And I'm sure
only 6 more losses.
well, 4 of them won't have anything to do with the main story. So yeah. So I'm really looking forward. I can't wait till next month when we're actually talking new X-Men stuff, where maybe it'll be a mix of nostalgia and trying to maybe integrate the rest of the X-Men back with the rest of the Marvel universe and get away from Krakoa. But I'm looking forward.
It helps that one of the news out of Twitterverse is that one of the X-Men's joining the Avengers again.
I did hear that. Bringing back Storm, right? Storm into the Avengers. I don't know how that messes up with Jed McKay's storyline, right? Because Jed McKay's lineup for Avengers is basically set with that, construct.
You say that, but I think issue 16, they're having a change around. Issue 16, there's a new team. Probably
because of the blood hunt story, right? But see, that's the thing is I think the blood hunt story is kind of a bump in the road and messed up Jed's story. Even though Jed's writing both, Avengers and blood hunt, this event is messing up his story that he's been telling for the last 12 issues in Avengers.
Yeah.
So it's like interrupting that. Yeah. It's interrupting the narrative I think it's
for sure.
But all right, let's take a quick break. And there's one more thing I wanted to talk to you about Marvel Studios.
Okay. Cool.
It can wait on the other side.
All right.
Let's check out the Definitive Crusade.
Definitive Crusade.
All right. Make sure to check out our sister show, The Definitive Crusade, on opposite weeks from us here at No Prize Podcast. But they all star this guy. Yeah. All right. So here's the thing I wanted to bring up. So you remember a few years ago when Marvel Studios shuttered their television division and brought everything under one banner with Kevin Feige and so that was where the Marvel television division was the one that brought out the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Netflix shows, Daredevil, stuff like that. And since they've done that and had everything under one banner, you've had the Avengers Endgame come out, and then since then a bunch of Disney Plus shows that have been maybe questionable in quality for a lot of us, and a lot of and a- and a lot of us have been kind of they feel like that the MCU has lost direction, right?
Right.
So here's just a few days ago, and I don't even know if you've even read this story. That Kevin Feige, they've established 3 divisions. So they've separated the Marvel Studios is now, but Marvel Studios handling all of the movie type stuff. There's a
Right.
separate division, Marvel Television, that is
Right.
going to be doing all of the TV stuff. And then the third division created Marvel Animation that is now going to be pushing all of the animated stuff.
Yeah.
And it's going to be 3 separate studios doing 3 different things, but focusing on they're putting TV people in charge of the TV stuff,
Yeah.
movie people in charge of the movie stuff, and animation people in charge of the animation stuff. And if X-Men 97, the first thing, because if you watched X-Men 97, that had the Marvel Animation trade banner on it.
Yeah.
That if that is a sign of things to come, I'm happy with it.
Um.
I think
Yeah.
that could be good things.
Yeah. I think. I think if Marvel Animation needs to improve anything, it's new stuff. It's all right going back to the well for X-Men 97,
Yep.
and they're probably going to go back to the well for the Spider-Man show. Spider-Man and Peter Parker have both shown up. MJ's been in there.
And we've seen the
Well,
Avengers, and we've seen Black.
yeah,
The last episode there was chock full of Marvel
yeah.
goodness. So,
It was the Iron Man from the Iron Man cartoon,
yep.
rather than the Iron Man that we're used to seeing. I'm not sure that there is the same level of love for some of those more older shows, like the Fantastic Four show they had, the Silver Surfer show.
Fair. Yeah.
I don't think there's as much love for those as there was for X-Men 97 or for the Spider-Man show, to be fair. The main, I suppose, crux for me is that we all know that, generally speaking, Marvel movies are better than DC movies.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Well, they make more money. If that's your modus operandi, they make more money. That's a fact. It's not getting away from it. Are Marvel movies plug and play? Yeah, but it works. It plugs and people play it. That's it. On the flip side of that, the DC shows are better than anything Marvel have put out TV shows. Regardless if you think The Flash went on too long or the last season of Arrow was too much. I'm talking about you've got Arrow, Flash, Superman, Supergirl, all Smallville.
Black Lightning. Yeah, there's tons of
Stargirl. There's a whole range of different
Doom Patrol, Titans. You can even go,
whole different range of shows for different audiences, and they're done really well. And the flip of that, of course, is the animation arm keeps knocking out movie after movie, whether it's Justice League, whether it's Batman, whether it's Long Halloween, all stem from the hits that were the Batman the Animated Series all those years ago that was challenging X-Men 97.
Yeah.
So DC have managed to claim the quality, the high quality ground when it comes to TV and animation that Marvel lacks. So I think splitting it up does give Marvel a sense of renewed focus, and it's not just all big picture. Like, whoa, look at all this. We can work in little styles. Because I personally thought the Netflix series, maybe Power Man not so much because I'm not or Defenders because that's just going to be nine episodes of I don't know what's going on. But the Daredevil show worked really well. The Jessica Jones season 1 especially worked brilliantly.
Yes.
So, they can do it if they're not always focusing on like or getting tied up in their own ways by I don't want to say B heroes, but to be fair, I still haven't seen the last swathe of Marvel Cinematic Universe's releases. I've not seen Shang-Chi. I've watched Wakanda Forgettable because I had to. I've seen the Scarlet Witch movie, aka Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah.
Scarlet Witch.
You saw the Marvels too, right? You saw the.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm But the stuff in between, Eternals. No, I have no idea what that's about. I do because I'm a nerd, but
Right.
So you're trying to come up with that. So that whole kind of one size fits all just doesn't work. For Marvel, we talked about before the break about synergy. How do you keep everything going? That'll be the problem. If you've got three different studios, how does one feed into the other? Do they have to feed into each other?
Right. That's you never really saw Agents of Shield other than you saw Coulson show up in the first Avengers movie or the first few, but that
Well,
was to establish the relationships, right?
yeah, in Jessica Jones, she talks about the event, about the aliens
Yeah.
rocking up in and destroying New York.
Mhm.
So it's an implied universe, not a shared universe.
Yeah, and that's I think where the relationship can be strongest, right? You want to focus on the characters that you're watching on the screen and not have to think about all the back continuity now.
Well, when you're watching Shield, you're wondering why the Hulk's not there.
Right. Yeah.
Did you watch Shield? I mean, I watched Shield.
I watched the first 3 or 4 seasons of Shield and then punched out. So what can I say?
Shield, we keep going back. We watch it. I mean, we kind of come back to it and think, oh yeah, it was really interesting. I think we watched the last one we watched went back in time and we're like really excited because it meant they're going to meet Peggy Carter because we love the Peggy Carter show.
I did like the Peggy Carter show.
Again, especially the first season. Maybe not so much the second, but the first season. But then we got sick of the timey-wimey stuff and like, oh, Coulson's not in charge because that's not really Coulson. That's someone else from another. I was like, what? I don't care. Poof. So.
Got bogged down by its own continuity rather than the rest of Marvel continuity.
Well, I get when they try and do like evil versions of characters. It's fun and it sees, but then they kill Coulson off again, and you're like, then the actor shows up again. It's like, dude, if you didn't want to not get the paycheck, don't get yourself killed. It's simple.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well.
Anyway, all right. Let's talk about though. We got a couple more comics to touch, right? So,
yep.
We were gonna do Doom number 1.
We've got Doom. I've got
Doom.
Doom
number 1.
I was on a podcast during the week on outside the panels, and we talked about influences of this book, and the guy said June, and I was like, I've never heard of it, but the way he said it, he said Dune, like with a hard D, and I thought with his accent, I thought he said Doom. I'm like, I have no idea what TV show he's talking about. Doom. What's he talking about? And then I realized I was like, no, it's June, of course. Right, statos. Oh, I haven't got the stats for this because it's a live book. So Dr. Wimmy, we will use the live book as our source of inspiration.
Excellent.
Where's that? I've seen it somewhere. There you go. Written by Sanford Green and Jonathan Hickman. If that makes you want to read the book, great. If it makes you want to put the book down, also great. Just saying. Rochelle Rosenberg is here with Sanford Green on colours. That's interesting, isn't it?
He's doing all duties, right?
Yeah. I wonder who put the staples in the book. And Joe Caramanga from VC Studios is on Lightroom.
This is the first time I'm ever seeing Sanford Green's name. Have you seen him in anything before?
Nope. I can't say that I have. It's not
yeah.
That automatically springs to mind.
He's also on the cover art. This seems to be a labor of love for Mr. Green.
Yeah. I mean, let's have a look at the cover. There you go. We had it looks a bit chest heavy, doesn't he? Really, he's got ickle spindly legs. Bless him.
Yeah, his shoulders. This is a shoulder thing going on.
Yeah.
But so,
okay. Cool. What's the story with this one?
What's the what on that?
Well, what's the story with this one?
Oh, the story. Oh, there's a story. Well, the question before we get into the story, I wanted to know if you liked the whole idea of them celebrating the 50th anniversary of the giant size specials. There have been several of them that have come out over the last month or two.
No, I think if you're going to celebrate, can we not celebrate something like worthwhile? What we're going to do? Celebrate 100 years of the staple?
I
No.
do
Hey,
you,
it's been 15 years since the invention of the Mylar comic book bag. Yay!
I just want to know if they're coming out with a giant sized man thing.
That'd be cool.
I just want to know. It's been several years. They did have a giant sized man thing 50 years ago. I wanted to know if they were just kind of gonna live in the joke and do it again.
Do it
So
again. Do it. No.
so well anyway, so giant sized Doom. There's never been a giant sized Doom 50 years ago, but here we're getting one. And this is actually like a what if story. It's not anything in continuity. It's actually a fun little romp through a what if Doctor Doom versus Galactus issue. And
this baffles my brain. This baffles my brain because this
yeah,
week, when this book came out, you've got this, and you've got not one but two other what if books. You've got a what if Venom and a what if Alien book. It's like we get the idea. What if? Maybe you should create something that actually is not. In fact, imagine that Marvel presents actually is.
what is instead of what if, what is?
Yeah.
Oh Jesus, yeah, that's we expect our checks in the mail, Marvel. That's going to be a great comic book coming out soon.
I can imagine that's a no price check heading our way for sure.
That's
how many zeros on that? All of them.
That's
no
summer 2025 event. Marvel's what is. All right. So this bad boy has two characters, maybe three if you count Galactus, but this is Valeria, the daughter of Reed and Sue, and Doctor Doom. This book starts with Valeria flying through space and finding Doctor Doom floating in space and saving him from the destruction of Earth, because Galactus showed up and then in this continuity ate the planet and killed everybody. And Valerio is the only survivor up until she finds Doctor Doom. And here they spend a lot of time giving us the backstory of what exactly happened. And Valeria is showing that Galactus's true, I guess, purpose is Galactus is tired. Galactus is tired of being in this universe and wants to set it up so that if you remember your Galactus history, guys, Galactus is supposedly was the first being in this universe and the last survivor of the previous universe, and his existence is to set up for the birth of a new universe or the next universe after this one. So he will be the last survivor of this universe, and he's the one that sets it up for the birth of the next one. So this is the whole plot of the story, where Doom and Valeria are actually trying to stop Galactus from ending the universe. And there's a bunch of nice big fat art panels here with Galactus fighting the Celestials and setting the, Doom being Doom wants the power for himself, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing I think this does a whole great thing with setting up. I love some of the art in here is pretty cool. Setting up what has happened before in this storyline and what they're going to do. They set Doctor Doom up to be all cosmic powered to fight Galactus's heralds, which happens to be not one, not two, but three molecule men, which is weird because wouldn't you think all you need is one?
Well, you think you only need one Superman as well, but hey ho, here we go.
Yeah, it's true.
We only need one Spider-Man. Oh wait.
So the thing that I think my big problem with books is they never really stick the landing. They like start cool, and then the end of the book is just like, okay, it stinks. This book doesn't really have an end. This book just ends with Doctor Doom facing Galactus, and that's it. That's the end. They never really tell you who wins. but you assume it's probably Doom because that's probably the book was named after. Yeah, so this Doctor Doom. That's the last page. Doctor Doom facing Galactus with
Oh
the
man.
universe, with the universe in the balance, and that's the end. So
Well, so it looks nice. It looks pretty. You
I,
know.
I I like the art. The artwork is
Yeah.
good. It's
It's good
everybody
to see
looks
Spider
consistent.
Gwen become a scientist. That's what I think.
Well, to be honest, Valeria has always had that's Valeria when I see it. I wasn't surprised. So,
Yeah.
um, she calls him Uncle Doom, like she does,
Well,
and they're
I
not.
understand that. Isn't she's named after
She's
Doom's dead wife
she's
or something?
it's weird because I think back when Valeria was born back in continuity, Doctor Doom ended up saving Sue's life and
Yeah. It had to be like, yeah,
saved the
pregnancy.
baby.
Yeah.
So like I don't know if Doom definitely has a soft spot for Valeria.
Yeah.
She's not really his niece, but
Yeah.
he
Like a
they have a
familiar
they have a
like.
special relationship.
I was
So
thinking about Doctor Doom recently, and the whole Fantastic Four, just as random thoughts pop into my head. Um, have you ever considered that actually Doom's the good guy and Reed Richards is the bad guy?
frequently,
Because
yeah,
I mean, Doctor Doom when Johnny Storm peed him off, he amped his powers up to no end. So that would indicate that Doom could take away the powers if he wanted to, and therefore also make Ben Grimm normal, which is something
yeah,
that Reed either can't do or more likely
won't do.
won't do.
Yep.
That's a when you start thinking like that, the Fantastic Four is a little bit Reed Richards. He's a little bit narcissistic, I think. I
Well,
would
that's
I would love it. I would love someone if you're going to do a clever what if story. I would like it to be revealed that the man in the iron mask is actually the real Reed Richards, and the Reed Richards we've got face off style is Victor Von Doom, and he's been playing us all this time. That's what I would like to see. But
now that's interesting because I've always thought that Reed and Victor were they're definitely two sides of the same coin, and
yeah,
it's it,
I think
it
they're the
is
same. I think they're the same side of the same coin.
no, but they've always been it's always been egos.
Yeah.
It's always been the battle of egos, and I don't think one is any better than the other. It's
Mm,
just that what would have become of Reed if there wasn't a Sue, Ben, and Johnny, right?
mm,
So
yeah.
you'd have two dooms basically. So for you
You can
know
start imagine the start of the ball game. Right, this coin's heads, the other coin is heads. What do you call them? The Dolphins are called tails and still lose. So
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a very interesting concept, and it's funny because when we think of the Fantastic Four, you think about the family, right? That's
right.
that's their biggest thing is family, and Doom has always been no family, right? There's always been his
Well,
his
mother.
family's gone, but yeah,
Yeah.
the mother he's super attached to the mom, but
Mm.
everybody on Doom's side is dead, right?
So
So
I just think if you're going to do a what if, instead of doing something that we've probably seen countless times, how many times has Doctor Doom tried to take the power cosmic?
oh yeah, more
Yeah,
than once.
and I also think every time I look at Galactus, I have to do this like mini double check because he's purple and blue, same as the wizard. And I think to myself, is that? Oh no, because he's got pointy things on his head. It's Galactus. I know it's fine. I can work that out. The color scheme for the time period. I just think if you're going to do something crazy with Doom, let's have it that. Let's have it that Doom is really Reed Richards, and vice versa. Let's go nuts.
That's interesting, and it could be possible because he's done it before. Doom switched minds with Reed, hasn't he?
I believe
Back in
so.
the back in the Burn Run, because
So that could have been Reed trying to reassert himself in his real body. See, I've got it all down.
there
I've got
you
it
go.
all down.
Eh.
Marvel, I'm waiting for your phone call. Don't forget to dial +44 for the UK. Thanks. Cheers.
All right, let's spend the last 5 minutes talking about Spider-Man Blood Hunt
Spider-Man. Right,
because
I've got the stats for this one. So this is Blood Hunters #1. It's a tie-in to the whole Blood Hunt thing. which I'll say this now. I'll get this little statement out beforehand. DC versus Vampires is a much better book. Sorry, go check that out. So this is Justina Ireland is the writer. Marcelo Ferreira is on art. Roberto Poggi or Poggi or Pogai, depending on how you pronounce it, is on inks. Rochelle Rosenberg is on colors. Did we just see her name? I think we just did.
We did.
And VC's Corey Pettit has pulled the poor duty from the VC studios to provide the letters. There we go.
All right, then. Well, this is, Blood Hunt has turned into especially the first issue was just setting up all these little miniseries that tied into it, right? With the one pager of a Spider-Man running into the lizard. And now this starts where Spider-Man facing the lizard, but then finding out, lizard's actually working on the side of good, believe it or not. And this is basically setting up the Misty Knight and Colleen Wing working along with Morbius, and that Morbius has developed a cure for vampirism.
Yeah.
Right.
No one's creating a cure 2 issues into an events book. No chance. No chance.
Right.
It's like that bit where you play in Arkham City and you get the note from Alfred saying, I've just sent you the cure. You take the cure and it ends up sending you do Daddy Tap. Of course there's no cure.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah. Now, so that's the setup for this issue, and that's basically all the information you really need to know about this issue. Is Spidey is working with Misty Knight with the Lizard as muscle. Lizard's actually he's pretty big and blocky in that one. I've never really seen the Lizard look that big. Have you?
No, but I actually do like the Lizard in this book. I quite like the whole Hulk Lizard thing. And I don't know, he's the best thing in this book.
When did he separate from Kurt Connors, or is Kurt Connors just dead and now it's just Lizard?
I think I don't know. I honestly have no idea.
And then they're so super surprised when he talks.
Yeah.
That to me, I was like, dude, hasn't Lizard always been able to talk, or is this the savage Lizard? I don't know. I don't remember this version of Lizard. I don't remember him being separated from Kurt. I'm going to have to go back and find out when that happened, because that seems to be...
I don't care about that, so I'm not going to go back and check. Yeah,
there's a thing that kind of messed up with me. So I have to go find out.
No, that's fine. Whilst you're there, can you also find out why Misty's night outfit keeps changing, please?
Oh, what's wrong with it? I didn't notice.
Well, starts off. Where's her introduction? Where is her introduction? Is that it? All right. Okay. So here we go. Starts off. She's got a boob window. That's fine. Hey, anyone likes a fashion choice? Just saying. Yeah. And then.
Hey, look at that.
It goes, and then it comes. Oh, it goes there. It's not there. Oh, there it is. And you're like, oh, there it is. But then it goes somewhere else. Make up your mind. Pick a style and stick with the damn thing. It changes more time than Power Girl.
That's weird. I didn't even notice that in the read through.
Obviously,
neither did the editors. The editors didn't realize that either. All right.
Look at that one there. There's absolutely no. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a boob man at all. I'm not saying that. I'm just wanting consistency. You know what I'm saying?
I get it. Yeah.
I mean, there should be one. She's facing front. You should be able. She's leaning forward. You should be able to see.
Yeah.
Somewhere this shoulder harness thing has shrunk and her red top has grown.
That's the very definition. That's the very definition of unstable molecules, Johnny.
All right, fair point. But still, I found the art a little bit too much. There's nothing on this book other than noise.
It's weird because it's not just from page to page, it's panel to panel.
Yeah.
You'd think that someone would have noticed it.
I like the idea that, I mean, look, again, it's now a whole... I do like some of the poses they put Spider-Man in. You know my feelings on this.
Yes.
Spider-Man's got to look like a spider. So some of the extremities do tend to get elongated because of that. Strange how people like Ramata Senior and Gil Kane used to be able to get Spider-Man like poses and keep human form quite regularly.
Yeah.
This modern day artist seems to think, well, if you're going to bend your leg that way, mate, you're going to have a leg that's 3 sizes longer than your chest.
Yeah.
But at one point, I thought they were going to Doctor Strange's place, and nothing happened. They went into it and then downstairs into a cell. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's a little bit noise, and it makes no sense to me. But if you're buying this because you're into the Blood Hunt, knock yourselves out. But
It's just it's a way to be involved in the story.
Well, I didn't
not be involved.
Do you know what annoyed me the most about Blood Hunt, the first issue, was that, and I missed the show about that, so apologies, is that they gave away the big end straight away. They gave away who the big bad was in the first issue, and I'm like, well, surely that could have been done at a more interesting pace to get.
I mean, unless he's not the real big bad guy, and then it could be someone else, but Blade could be the red herring, but it does seem to me to be, a little too convenient. So, and then there's a second story in here. Hey, you get to find out what Colleen Wing is up to with Morbius, as opposed to Spider-Man and Misty Knight. So,
is every other woman in the Marvel universe got red hair?
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
Nothing. I like it. I'm just saying.
Well, there's a more ginger ratio in Marvel comics than there is in the real world.
Yes. So. Yes, I can only think of 2 DC gingers on the top of my head. 3. Wow. Yeah, 3. Vicky Vale.
Yep.
Looker.
Yep.
4. Jimmy Olsen. Wally West.
Batgirl.
Oh, Batgirl. Yeah. Yeah, Batgirl 5. So there you go.
Okay. Yeah. I was waiting for you to say Batgirl every single one. I was like, well, Batgirl.
Yeah, sorry, but so then if we do it Marvel style, Colleen, MJ, Jean Grey, Louise, Hope,
Madeline Pryor.
Madeline Pryor. Anyone?
Yeah, everybody. Colleen Wing, apparently. All right, so this the second story here, Morbius and Colleen Wing, basically ends with it ends poorly, by the way. Colleen Wing gets bitten, and just like everybody else, seems like you have to have a tie-in here in the first issues where someone gets bitten and turned into a vampire, to kind of raise the stakes.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So, but anyway.
Jokes with 13th.
I know. I didn't know it was going to be a joke until I said it. But anyway,
that's another nail in the coffin for this book. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Anyway, so I guess the recommendation is, if you're reading Blood Hunt, yeah, go ahead and pick this up. If not, there's absolutely zero reason for you to pick it up. It's just not.
Quick question though, before we go, here's a thought that's going to linger. The Ultimate Spider-Man book's better than the Amazing Spider-Man book. Just saying.
It is. I'm not going to argue with you because you're right. That's the Ultimate Spider-Man book is so much better than the Amazing Spider-Man right now. But hey,
where did it go wrong?
On the flip side, Ultimate X-Men is a freaking train wreck.
True.
And I would rather read the Krakoa storylines in X-Men than read the Ultimate.
Let's not touch ourselves too much.
All right.
4 weeks ago. No new X-Men. 4 weeks to go.
Johnny, thanks for joining me. Thank you all for watching this episode of No Prize Podcast. When we're back, it's going to be just the cusp of summer. It's going to be kids are getting out of school and everything. So,
woohoo!
Yay! All right. So until then, thank you.
Adios.
And stay safe.